Hey, this is another video by PetRock, and today I'm working on my wife's 98 Ford Mustang. It's a 3.8 liter, and I just replaced the power steering rack and the power steering pump. And it's recommended by the pump and rack manufacturers that you flush the system before taking the car for a drive. This gets all the fluid that they use during remanufacture out of the system and make sure that your system contains only the correct fluid for your vehicle. This car takes ATF fluid, which is red. The fluid that was used by the remanufacturers appears to be just standard power steering fluid, which is clear. I need to flush as much of that stuff out as I can and replace it with the correct kind of fluid. So you want to do this kind of a flush every 60,000 miles, regardless of what kind of fluid you have inside. ATF or power steering fluid, because power steering fluid and ATF fluid, it doesn't last forever. It will get dirty, it will get burnt up over time. It's a fairly simple job. There are many different ways of doing it. This is the way I've been doing it for years, and it's worked very well for me. The key to this job is to not let the pump run dry as you're flushing the system. Some people will recommend bumping the starter, for example, to spin the power steering pump to suck the fluid in and have it pushed out the other end. The only problem with that is that you can easily run the pump dry because it'll suck down more fluid than you expect. So I do it manually by spinning the pump by hand. First thing you need to do is put the car up on jack stands or on ramps, because you're going to need to climb underneath. It also makes it easier to work because the motor's higher up off the ground, so you don't have to bend over as far to work on the motor. Now you take an 18mm socket and a breaker bar or large wrench, put it on the tensioner bolt and pull up. That'll loosen the belt so you can just slide it off the alternator. Then slowly let the breaker bar down. Don't just let go of the breaker bar. It could possibly hit something and damage it, or it could damage the tensioner itself. And just take your breaker bar off. You only really need the belt off this area over here where the alternator and the pulley are. So you don't need to remove it fully if you don't want to. You can just leave it hanging like this. In my case, I'm gonna just take it off altogether to avoid possibly getting any fluids on it while I'm working. You want to remove the power steering pump cap. So now you need to find the return line hose coming out of the power steering rack. You'll see multiple lines going into it. You'll have two that are coming out. This one right here and this one right here. Yes, being loose is normal. This hose right here with the crimp line on it going up towards the pump. This is the high pressure line. This gold one, yours may be a different color, is the return line coming out of the power steering rack. So you follow this hose all the way to the front of the vehicle, and in this case the hose connects to the top of this junction right in here, which is actually a long metal tube that goes all the way across the bumper to the other side of the car, and then all the way back again, comes out on this side, which goes into this hose, which goes up towards the power steering pump as the power steering pump's return line. So this hose right here is the one we care about right now. Yours may be on the bottom. It doesn't really matter which side they're on. What matters is you need to find the hose that is the return line from the power steering rack. And in this case, it's this hose right here. So to gain access, you might need to pull out this one press clip right here. Just get in there with a screwdriver, two screwdrivers on either side, and pry out like that. And then pull it out of the way so you can gain access to this hose. Then you take a pair of pliers and pull the hose clamp back. Like that. Now you want to pull this hose out. Okay, I like to take a pair of right angles pliers like these. And first, rotate the hose in order to break it free. Sometimes they get stuck on the metal that they're attached to, and you don't want that getting in the way and making it harder to remove. Okay, next I like to get a pair of 90-degree pliers like these and pull on the hose. Now there's a fairly big barb on the end of this metal line that the hose is attached to, so it makes it a little bit difficult for the hose to come off. It's just standard 3/8 inch fuel line, so if you damage it as you're pulling it off, don't worry, you can replace it for like a couple cents per foot at any auto parts store. So I take the pliers, I put them behind the hose, and pull. It acts like a Chinese finger trap, so you don't want to pull on the hose raw. So you take the pliers and you pull, applying pressure on the hose itself only. And it'll start to come loose. Now be prepared, when this actually does come apart, fluid will come out. So have your catch can ready underneath before you start. It's almost off. there you go. As you can see, fluid's coming out. So just have your pan available and let this go until it stops dripping. So as you can see, this is going to keep dripping. You need to block off this end because as you're going to be flushing it, you're going to be adding fluid into the reservoir, and that fluid's going to come down the return line on this hose into the pipe all the way back around and back out to this side. You don't want the fluid that you're putting in just coming out here. You want it to come out the other hose. So you need to take a small piece of 3/8 inch fuel line, stick it on the end just slightly, doesn't have to be on there that far, and just take an old spark plug and stick it in the other end, and that'll seal it off so it won't leak out all over the place as you're working. Next, you want to find a small plastic bottle of some form that's clear. It needs to be clear so that you can look at the fluid as it's coming out and be able to notice when fresh fluid is starting to come out of the hose. A larger bottle would be preferable. However, my wife threw out the bottle that I had prepared for this, and this is the only one I could find, so I'm making do. Anyway, so you take the bottle, stick it on the end of the hose, like that, and set it down, and now we move into the engine bay. Now we remove the power steering pump dipstick. So you want to take a funnel and fill up the power steering pump reservoir with fluid. Make sure you use the correct type of fluid for your vehicle. You want to fill it up almost all the way to the top. I know the fluid is a little bit hard to see, but you can kind of see a flash in the fluid. That's air bubbles coming up as the fluid starts to fill up the pump and go into the hoses. So let me try to get a little bit better light down there so you can see the fluid level change. Take your 3/8 hex socket, stick it in the front of the pulley shaft hole, and start turning it clockwise. You can see the fluid starting to go down. So you don't want to let the pump run dry. So once you start seeing bits of the pump start sticking through, like that one right there, you want to top off the fluid again. So as you're turning it, the fluid is being forced through the pump up this return line, down into the rack, and then out through the hose that we disconnected earlier and into your clear bottle. So once you start seeing fresh fluid coming out, next you want to turn the wheels to one side and then repeat the process. Then once you start seeing fresh fluid coming out again, you want to turn your wheels to the other side and then repeat the process until you start seeing fresh fluid come out. So once you've done that and you've gone both full lock to lock on both sides and pumped it through, then you're done. You want to take the hose out, set your bottle aside, remove the plug from the other side. Again, fluid is going to come out, so you be prepared for it. And reattach your hose. Clean up any fluid that may have gotten anywhere, and then reattach your line. I like to get them roughly where they were before, just to help seat them. Now you can put your shield back on. So now you keep turning the wrench until 1, you stop seeing bubbles pop out like that, and 2, once the fluid level stops going down. Once the fluid level stops going down, you've gotten most of the air bubbles out of the system. Don't let it run dry, so you want to keep adding fluid until the fluid stops going down. Now it's a good idea to take some brake clean and clean off the pulleys all around in here, especially the power steering pump pulley, to clean off any fluid that you may have dripped on it. Okay, now you need to put your serpentine belt on. If you don't remember what the routing was, oftentimes on the hood itself, near the front, you'll see the routing diagram that you can follow to put the belt on properly. Otherwise, it's a good idea just to take a picture of it before you even started. I should have mentioned that earlier. Put your wrench on the tensioner, pull up on the tensioner, and also pull on the belt as you go to give it enough slack to get it over one pulley, and then pull again to get it under the second one. Now double check that the belt is seated in all of the grooved pulleys, then reattach the radiator overflow hose. So now you turn the car on and you turn the wheel lock to lock a bunch of times. There really isn't any set number. You just keep doing it until the noise quiets down. But since you primed the pump already, there shouldn't be too much noise. Well, here it goes. Put your wrench on the tensioner, pull up on the tensioner, and also pull on the belt as you go to give it enough slack to get it over one pulley, and then pull again to get it under the second one. Now double check that the belt is seated in all of the grooved pulleys, then reattach the radiator overflow hose. So now you turn the car on and you turn the wheel lock to lock a bunch of times. There really isn't any set number. You just keep doing it until the noise quiets down. But since you primed the pump already, there shouldn't be too much noise. Well, here it goes. So what I like to do is I like to open the driver's window with the car running so I can keep an eye on the power steering pump right there, and with my other hand, my free hand, I just rotate the steering wheel back and forth. All while keeping an eye on the power steering pump. So as you can see, one little air bubble in there, but what that actually is telling me is one, that there was a bit of air in the system, and then two, it tells me that the pump is actually pumping the fluid and the fluid is flowing around in the system like it's supposed to. So you keep turning the wheel back and forth until the noise quiets down, making sure to do the car still in the air, by the way. So before you put the car back down on the ground, you want to climb underneath and look for any leaks. Make sure all the bolts and the ends and the lines going into the power steering rack aren't leaking. Double check the hoses going into and out of the pump, then put the car down and take it for a test drive. When you're done with the test drive, check to make sure that the fluid level remained at the same level and that there are no more air bubbles. The pump may make a little bit of noise to start off with, but that should dissipate as more and more of the air that may be in your system gets out. And that's it. So I hope this video helped you out. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comments section below. If you liked what you saw, click the like button. If you want to see more like it, subscribe.